So here I am, actually at the Airbnb that I'm staying at, which is my voice is bad, but I haven't actually yelled once on this entire trip. I just caught a virus before I came on the trip. So, anyways, a reminder that you can be very effective and active in the world in a lot of ways. You can be in a comfortable Airbnb. You do not have to just be on the streets with signs, chanting, and doing things like that. And you can do that if you want. And you can be at home making phone calls. There's a million ways to simply be involved. And today I'm going to be interviewing someone who did some really amazing stuff last night, and he's going to tell you the story. So, now your last name again.
Hart.
Hart.
Hart. Hart.
I love it. I love it. Okay, doke. So this is Leo Hart, and Leo is staying with me at the Airbnb along with your
Was my friend, childhood friend.
good, excellent. And my very close friend is here. So we've got the whole house full of people who are really excited about what's going on and engaged and focused. So
Absolutely.
why don't you go ahead and tell the folks back home about this awesome experience that you had last night?
Yes. Okay. Well, first, let me say so my name is Leo, and over the last 2 or 3 days, I've been working together with an organization called Democracy Spring. And Democracy Spring is an organization who has come together with people all over the country. And we are a bunch of issue-based individuals. So we are nonpartisan. We are not looking to represent any candidate, any particular candidate, or any particular political politician, but more so just issue-based, issue-focused, and we put ourselves in a position where we can disrupt business as usual and send a message for the people, for the 99%, um, wherever and however we are needed.
So thank you for clarifying. That was great because I think I had called you a Bernie Crat. I'm not sure.
I do have my allies or the people who I hold dear to my heart, but when it comes to what is important and really where my roots lie, it lies with the issues, not with the candidates. The candidates are
Right.
there to represent us, but at the end of the day, what's most important is that our issues are being addressed.
Right. And so when you say that Democracy Spring raises awareness and attention by disrupting business as usual, I think that's sort of the idea, right? Is that if you disrupt business as usual, you draw attention and then that focuses attention on the issues.
Yes, that absolutely.
Am I
Absolutely.
understanding it correctly?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
yes, and we do it, and we do when we disrupt business as usual. I also want to clarify or make sure that it's understood that we do things in a peaceful, nonviolent protest.
Right.
There is no other way than peaceful or nonviolent with Democracy Spring because otherwise you divert from the purpose and
Right.
you tend to draw negative attention, and then you also can be discredited. You lose credit for
Right.
what it is that you stand for. So that's a very very core value in our stand, and the effects that we've had, the impacts that we've had, and the inspiration we've created. And we're yes,
Were
it's
you
we're
guys
very
the
good.
ones that were offering the free nonviolent trainings throughout the week?
Yes. Oh, there may have been others, but I know Democracy Spring, it is mandatory if you are going to protest and sit in with us and to make a nonviolent, peaceful protest. That yes, that there is mandatory training for that because
And it was being
it's
offered for just
helpful.
people in general. Yeah, I think it was every
Yeah.
morning from like 9 to 11 in FDR Park. It was being offered in a few other locations and times so that everyone who was here who wanted ideas, training, and support could go there.
Yes, and it really, one thing, without going on about too much, I was just going to
Yeah,
say the training, and this is for someone who has done several sit-ins now. I still go to the trainings because, I'm not protesting every single day of my life, and so when you get back into the daily routine, or you start to, go to work, or you're cooking dinner, and you're not. There are just certain things that we need to be reminded of because when we get out there, you don't always know what you're going to be faced up against and who's going to be, coming to tell you what you can and can't do. So,
right. So what happened, or what was the cool thing last night that you were engaged in?
so last night was a big night. It was a very exciting night. So what we did, a group of us, about 30 or 35 of us, we wound up um, blocking the one of the entrances to the DNC convention.
Right,
So we wound up coming into the lion's den, so to speak, and we wound up basically spreading our banner out, and we stood and held the entrance in a peaceful, nonviolent way, and we listed off our demands to the DNC. We made it clear as to what we represented, which is 99% and democracy. And our focus for this sit-in in particular was reclaiming our democracy, and it was just laying out a set of demands about what is going to be needed in the next with the new administration when that takes place. Um, what our demands are, and what our demands are, what the people's demands are, and what is going to be needed in order for us to retain a democracy.
right. And when you guys were there with the banner blocking the entrance, you said that there was someone who was disabled who was being blocked.
Yes, yes.
And what was the response?
So we if officers needed to get by, we did let them go by because I mean it's we're not trying to endanger police officers, and nor are we trying to assault or trying to aggravate police officers. Our intention is simply to disrupt business as usual. Um, and we did have one lady with a cane who was getting by. We understood that, we're not going to make her stand here for an hour or two or however long it takes for things to progress and whatnot. So we did let her by. But as far as press goes, as far as anybody who was part of the convention, there were other entrances, so they would be able to find a way to get in, I guess, if they needed to.
Right,
But the idea was to say that it's not okay, and the best way to get attention, and even then sometimes to get attention from the press, is to go to a high visible area, high in a public area
right,
where we can be where people are going to notice and talk about things. And if we
right.
do it in someone's backyard, then
Yeah.
let's just say that just I don't think that's going to be as effective.
Now, one of the things is you were arrested last night and you were explaining to me a little bit about an interaction you had with what you called your arresting officer. And I just found it to be really incredible. Do you mind sharing that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just this entire week. I mean, last night was incredible, but I mean, like we have been as Democracy Spring, we have been performing many actions throughout the week, and some are more visible than others. Sometimes it's not all about sitting in and occupying a certain area. Sometimes it's just being there to de-escalate issues or to try to come to a common understanding or try to mediate folks who are upset, who are maybe confused, or who are maybe just needing someone to vent to. So it just depends on the situation. But throughout the entire week, I just want to say, first, thank you, Philadelphia Police, for everything you guys do and everything you have done up to this point, because I can tell you that I honestly feel like I have been served, that I feel protected and I feel safe, even in moments of protest. I feel safe around you, and just they're just I feel like there is a human to human interaction. I don't feel so much like I'm being separated or us versus them, where like as a military versus a people or vice, whichever. I really feel like we're all in this together. They are doing their job and we're just doing ours, and we're able to do it in a non-violent, peaceful way. So I appreciate that. I just want to say thank you, Philadelphia Police.
I think I've
If
said
you did
thank you
this,
4 or 5 times to the police myself. I agree that their ambiance, their energy, their wisdom, maturity, and patience, and they just seem really calm. It's like, been there, done that. They're not ruffled, they're not anxious. It's been so amazingly cool.
it has.
And really, really cool.
Yes, and the people have been great too. Don't get me wrong. The people have also have helped with it. The people make it easier, or make it easier to work together as a team when the people are also peaceful and are also acting in a non-violent manner.
Yeah, I was
Um,
talking to a man who had so many things on his chest and a giant hat and all this stuff. He's got to be one of the big chiefs of the police department. Just yesterday at the Black Men for Bernie event, and I was talking about this, and he said, well, you guys have made it possible because, you guys, he's like, basically, you're just super cooperative and peaceful, and no one's causing any much of a ruckus hardly at all. And I was like, well, yeah, but that's because we're all Bernie supporters and Bernie crats and whatnot. All we want is a better world for everyone. So like, why would we show up and be violent? And we sort of laughed. He's like, yeah, I agree completely. So I think you're right. Everyone is, so tell me about that interaction with
So,
the police officer.
okay, so throughout the night, just in general, and this not just the night, the weekend as well. But I just want to say, like, first of all, like all the police officers were dressed in soft uniform, and what that means is just they were dressed. The majority of the Philly police were dressed in polo shirts or collar shirts. They didn't have body armor on. They didn't have masks on or clubs or anything. Their weapons stayed in their holsters at all. At least around us, I have not seen anything like that. It was a very comforting environment, and throughout the entire protest, as we were cheering and we were making our demands and we were chanting, and we were we were listened to, we were given distance, but also we were being blocked off, and they were doing their part to disrupt the disruption that we were
Right,
creating.
right, 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 right.
And as I so once as we got through the arrest, my arresting officer brought me. I was brought to the back to have my paperwork processed, and I had zip ties put on my arms to for restraint. But other than that, I mean, we went through my bag to check to see what I had in my bag. I told him what I had in my bag, and then he was just very friendly, very cordial with me, very honest with me, and told me where he was putting my stuff back in my bag. And then by the time we were done, I had even asked him, just like, we were able to have a conversation even and talk about, like, so how long have you been in Philadelphia? And where are you? You're coming from Chicago, okay, and like we just kind of like went back and forth, just like we were just kind of doing like I guess what I would call business as usual as a human being, just talking about life and just talking about other things. And by the time we were done, before I left, I told him, "Thank you so much for everything you do." And he replied to me in the same gesture. He said, "Thank you for everything you do." And I asked him to be safe, and I said, I asked him, "Be safe, thank you." And he said, "You too, be safe, thank you." And I'm pretty sure that if I didn't have zip ties and he wasn't an officer, I probably would have given him a big hug at that point.
Oh,
But it
yeah.
wasn't. But the rules, by the rules, and also with zip ties, it's very difficult to do that. It's probably part of the
Yeah.
reason why we get zip ties sometimes. But
It would have been
anyway,
a shoulder hug.
yeah, sure, yeah,
Right.
something like that. But it was
Yeah.
that was just with my arresting officer. I mean, like once the paperwork was filled out, and I was then brought to the county bus. We went to when we were loaded onto the bus, and then brought to be to have our paperwork processed. All the police officers that we spoke with, they spoke with us like human beings. And by human beings, I don't just mean like just talking to us, but I mean like they just asked us how we were doing. We asked how they were doing. By the time we were done, I think one of them even told me that they liked my hair. One of us,
Yeah.
we shook hands, and just said, have a good night. It wasn't, it just felt kind of like we just came to hang out at their house for a little bit. And I understand that that's not always the case with police officers. And if people aren't demonstrating in a peaceful way or demonstrating in a nonviolent way, well, those opportunities then are not quite they don't present themselves as much.
It's what's nice about this is that we get to celebrate and recognize that sometimes it goes really well. And,
Yes, totally.
yes, it is so vitally important that we face the problems and the ways in which it's not going well, because by facing those, you can actually reconcile them, you can apologize and move forward. However, I think that for many people who don't get out in the streets very often, they don't go to marches or rallies for whatever reason, they have these corporate media impressions in their head of what happens, what a protester looks like, and how the police behave and all that. And, and your situation illuminates a whole nother way in which that can go down and the energy that can be behind this. And so I'm just trying to give people another view.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and because this is by history the most effective way to protest. At that, it's the most effective way. When violence only promotes violence,
Yeah.
so when you take the violence out, you do it peacefully. You're going to send a message that not only to the police officers, not only to the establishment, not only to but also to anybody watching and witnessing. It really can be inspirational, and it certainly has inspired me. That's why I keep coming back. That's why I keep doing this, because it has not only inspired me because of the results and because of the feedback that we've received, but also because of the connection that we've made with fellow protesters and with people who feel in the same stance and the same feel the same way. It's really tied us together, and really, it's just it's really an amazing thing. It
You
really
know,
is.
it's interesting on the partisan side of things. There are a number of people who right now on Facebook are very concerned that if people at the Wells Fargo Center this week, the delegates themselves, if they do not behave polite, if they do not fall in line, if they do not, nod their heads and celebrate and support the DNC's, show, that they're somehow threatening the future of America and causing problems. And yet, I'm on a lot of different Facebook groups. Some of them are progressive, some of them are about Bernie Sanders, some of them are about, a renewal of democracy, all these different things. They're exploding. I mean, on Tuesday alone, in a 24-hour period, there was like 750 new members on one Facebook group. So it's actually happening, as you said, because all of the delegates who are taking action to point out the corruption in the DNC and what's been going on all year long, and the ones that are speaking up, they're all also doing it peacefully. And so what's happening is, they say all press is good press. Well, in this case, it's even better. A bunch of nonviolent protesting press is great press. And there's so many people who are waking up and becoming more aware. That gives them a chance to start to join this creative process of regaining a good
Absolutely.
future for America.
And having faith in being able to be peaceful and do things in a more positive, less fear mongering way, for lack of
Yes.
better phrasing at the
Yeah.
moment. But if I can say something else, I do want to say
Yes.
speak to the Bernie delegates, that
Yeah.
also Bernie delegates, thank you also for everything you have done. I want to assure you that what you have done has not gone unnoticed, that everything that you have done has made a difference, and that regardless of what it feels like inside the DNC convention, inside the convention, and what it feels like, not maybe you feel like you have not had your voice heard, or maybe you feel like um, no one is listening. I assure you, there are many of us outside that are totally in full force and very, very enthusiastic, very excited, and very, very behind you. So do not let this discourage you. Stand with us, stick with it. We're going to keep this going. This isn't stopping. This is just the beginning.
I agree completely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.